め続けたあの日の夜
Welcome back, guys. This is your anime Degens, a BS episode 69. I'm here with my boy Tyler. Dan still missing somewhere in Europe. I'm sure he's loving getting out there, even though he's out there for some work. I think it's about time for him to start the play in Europe. But Tyler, how you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing great by the way. I think he's actually on his little vacation now. He was actually supposed to send us some pictures in Discord, but I guess he forgot about us over here. That's having to still work and stuff. He's just over there chilling and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think at this point in the trip, it would mostly be pictures of beer. Um, I don't know how that's going to change as he transitions to the vacation part of his trip, but hopefully we'll start getting some pictures here soon.
Yeah, he said there was like some nice, I guess mountain landscape stuff that he had that he was seeing. So
Mhm.
I'm sure it's beautiful over there.
Oh man, better believe it. Better believe it. Well, guys, we have a DGen review of My Neighbor Totoro today. For some reason, in my mind, I keep thinking My Friend Totoro, but it is in fact My Neighbor Totoro. And as always, guys, the best way to support us is to rate the podcast, tell your friends about us, get the community engaged, keep us growing. And if you have any interesting topics, as always, we'd like to discuss them on the show. Hit us up in the Discord. We are actually going to ask a question from one of our listeners today, and we'll get around to that when we do. Hit us up in the Discord, linktree.com/anime degens. It's your boys. So, Tyler, you want to hit us off with some news?
Yeah, one bit of news that kind of surprised a lot of people was Ghost in the Shell is actually going to get a new anime in 2026. I know it's a while off still, but Science Saru is going to be doing it. And it's supposedly going to adapt the Ghost in the Shell manga, and it's been said that it's going to be a more faithful adaptation of it. So I don't know how that's all gonna play out. They got plenty of time to make it happen, and I know a lot of people was excited about it. So
Very, very nice. So I'm looking up Science Saru. So they have Dan to Dan
yeah,
for Dan Scott Pilgrim. They did Takes Off. Yeah, there's a few on here that I do know. I
and
wasn't too
it's
familiar with them. Yeah.
and it's not just Science Saru. I don't think. I think it's gonna be like Production IG and like a couple other companies working together with Science Saru in order to make this new anime. So
Okay.
adaptation. So it should
So
be a fun time.
I think so. They also did Adventure Time OP. They did Night is Short Walk On Girl, which we have a review of. You guys go check that out if you haven't. That was trippy as fuck. That was a really cool movie. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, there's a few bangers on here. Then Crayon Shin, the movie. But the next piece of news we have, guys, is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Season 5 is coming this fall. Tyler, is that something you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. Even though I haven't like watched all the seasons leading up to this or whatever. I'm only in like the first season, but this is still like a kind of funny like fantasy adventure type thing. And I think it's been a while since we had another season, so I'm always down for a good time, you know what I mean?
Excellent, excellent. That's great.
And the next one, I'm really excited for this one. I know a lot of other people are too. Sakamoto Days is getting an adaptation. It's gonna come out in January 2025. CMS Entertainment's gonna be doing it, and like I feel like next winter or whatever, the January, which I think is the winter season, is gonna be lit because we got Sakamoto Days, we got Apothecary Diaries, and there ain't no telling what else we got. But just those two, it's gonna make my year, honestly. So
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
okay. 2025 looking good for our boy Tyler. Next, we have that Mashal season 3 has been announced. It was only a matter of time. We've been eating this shit up like the gremlins we are. Yeah, I'm very, very excited about this. I really do enjoy Mashal a ton. Um, really happy that we've gotten to do the rundown twice for the first two seasons, and we'll see about the third, guys.
yeah. And the next thing we got is Batman Ninja. It's apparently there's original anime about Batman being a ninja. And this is gonna be a sequel, and it's Batman Ninja versus Yakuza League. And it's gonna be the sequel to the 2018 Batman Ninja anime, which got a 5.6 out of 10 on IMDb. So I'm not sure if it's actually good or not, but like it's interesting, you know what I mean?
That is very interesting with such a low score from IMDb. They're not the hardest on a lot of movies, so getting that low of a score is a little alarming to me. However, the cover art looks phenomenal.
I
Um,
mean, but it
with
is anime, you know what I mean? So maybe they judge it weird or something, you know?
they're usually pretty fair.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty fair. But I'm looking at the cover art right now, and it's has Batman not in an ninja outfit, but more of a samurai
Yeah.
warrior armor. So like it's pretty cool looking. Cool looks cool. I don't know if it is cool, guys. Don't pin me down for that one if you watch it. But next we have One Piece Heroines, a manga with a collection of short stories about Nami, Robin, Vivi, and Persona going on adventures. That sounds sick as fuck. Written by Jun Isaka, excuse me. Created by Oda and will be illustrated by Sayaka Suya. Um, Coming out in spring 2025. I know I might have butchered a couple of names right there. I'm a little rusty at this point. But
Yeah.
I think this could be great.
Yeah. I think this would be a fun time. I think they honestly One Piece, like Oda, he's missing out on so much because he's not doing shit like this because fans like us is gonna eat this shit up, So like I want to see more of this if it doesn't take away from like Oda's One Piece main time, you know what I mean? If it doesn't make it harder on him. And by the looks of this, it's written by someone else, like it's created by Oda and it's drawn by someone else. So it's not like it's putting a whole lot of load on him. He's like overseeing it, I guess. And other people are taking care of the hard work. So I'm down for it.
Yeah, I'm hoping he just does like creative direction and thumbs up or thumbs down type of situation.
Yeah.
But Persona, if Persona's going to be in it, I love that. We need more Persona in our lives. Persona, Perona. But Tyler, are you ready to get to the Degen review?
Yeah, let's do this shit.
All right, guys. So today we have My Neighbor Totoro. This movie was produced by Ghibli Films and released in 1988. Directed by our boy Hayao Miyazaki. It has an 8.25 on my anime list and has an 86-minute runtime. So it is a very quick watch. I watched this after work earlier this week, and it's a nice way to start the evening, to be honest.
Yeah. And speaking of one bit of news that I just now remembered, I reckon Miyazaki's actually working on another film. And he's planning on, I think it's rumored that he said that he's planning on it going to be an action adventure type film. So just to keep in mind.
Okay, he just couldn't put down the pen, could he?
No. What a surprise, right? He's
I
already
know.
retired so many times and came back so many times. So
Exactly.
um, but yeah, I thought that was a pretty neat thing since we're talking about Miyazaki.
Yeah,
Um,
I always feel like some people come in and out of retirement, like for certain artists, especially musicians, for like dramatic effect. But I genuinely believe this man can just not sit down somewhere.
yeah, I mean, possibility. I mean, that's what happens. When you're just so good at it, especially when you don't really have anybody take over. So, um,
Very true.
but getting back to the My Neighbor Totoro, I'm gonna read a quick summary before we get into the spoiler-free version of our review. There will be a warning before we start the spoiler zone, which is our second half of the review. So don't worry about spoilers. There's not gonna be any in this first part. We'll let you know. So the summary is My Neighbor Totoro follows two young sisters that have moved to the countryside to be close to their mother, who is in the hospital with a long term illness. Soon they discover a world of magical creatures who bring a sense of wonder and joy to their everyday lives. And um, to start this off, like it's always fun to see how we watch this, subbed or dubbed. Me personally, I watch this one dubbed. I usually try to watch Ghibli movies dubbed because they just do a phenomenal job dubbed. I usually try to watch a few minutes in sub just to compare. I didn't get to this time just because I thought the dubbed was like phenomenal. It was like really good, especially for a 1988 movie. I think this was the second ever Ghibli movie. So,
Correct,
uh,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah, I always watch it dubbed because that's who I am. I think we've clearly established that over our time here on Anime Degens. But yeah, Ghibli always takes care to make good dubs for the Western audience, and I really do appreciate that. Yeah. Um, but outside of that, man, how was the pacing for this movie for you? That's kind of what I want to get out of the way first.
I felt like it flowed pretty well. Like it wasn't really fast paced. It wasn't really slow paced either. I think it kind of felt more like a slice of life um movie, rather than like some of the Ghibli movies that we've watched or whatever. Uh, but I thought it done a pretty good job. It kept me entertained for the whole 90 minutes, which is like I said, short for a Ghibli film as well. Usually they hit like 2 hours easy. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I thought the pacing was good. Um, the only thing that like kind of drew it back for me, there was like no real crescendo for me personally. I never got really too invested in this, but the actual pacing, I think what they were trying to achieve with the movie, they did well and in good time. Um, they very well could have made this over 2 hours.
oh
Very
yeah.
well could have done that, but I think minutes, 90 minutes is a good mark for this film here. Um, but I really don't think we ever need at this point in our show need to talk about Ghibli animation again and again and again. It goes crazy every time. We love the hand drawn 2D art. Um, Miyazaki, I think, is probably the last master of 2D art we're going to see, at least producing movies of this caliber and notoriety. But did this movie differ greatly in some of the from some of the older Ghibli films in terms of art? Like, I don't know if you've seen Kiki's Delivery Service.
No, I haven't.
Okay, then what about compared to Princess Mononoke?
I think I honestly like Princess Mononoke. I think that it was better in some ways.
Hmm.
Um, like we didn't really get like a whole lot of like Ghibli esque shots on here. We only got like a few here and there. Later on in the like movie or whatever. Like Mononoke though, like it had like a lot of things going for it. It had like quite a bit of things happening, and this was kind of like a laid back movie, kind of chill movie, if you might say.
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
know if that
and like the
gets
animation,
through.
it was still detailed, but
Yeah.
you could tell it was a little older than Princess Mononoke. This came out what 11 years before. I think Princess Mononoke was 1999 or 1998. So you have about a decade between the two, and I could sort of tell, but not in like in a bad way. It's still for 1988 in animation, leagues ahead of what was probably coming out from even Disney at this point.
Yeah,
Until you
that
get to like something like a The Lion King, which I think blew everybody's mind at the time.
yeah, I mean that's basically my thoughts too. Like for 1988, this shit was like leagues, like Bass said, leagues ahead of everyone else. Even still today, like you watch it and it's it's still competent. Like
Right.
it still can do what it set out to do. And like if you watch One Piece, like early One Piece or early Bleach or anything like that, like you can tell that it was made back in the day. Like it looks horrible compared to everything else. But when you watch a Studio Ghibli movie like this, and it's made even before One Piece and Bleach and all that, like it's like what was everyone else doing differently that Ghibli was, like how was Ghibli so much better that and they could hold up over time like this, you know?
That's true. And this being Ghibli's like second film, I forget what the first one was, but this studio was created, by Miyazaki and Associates, so they could spend so much time and money on animation, so they could, kind of take some more risk with storytelling. I don't know if we saw it um, big time here. In ways you can argue, we'll talk about in that in the spoiler zone. But I think, yeah, that you could definitely tell this was they took their time. Probably almost went broke making this, to be honest with you, with being such a new studio.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say so.
and one thing I gotta bring up, man, um, Yatsuko, the mother, her noggin, bro, was she had a dome, dog. She had an absolute crater of a head, man. Um, I honestly thought like the weakest part of the animation. I mean, it's just a stylistic choice, but were like the two children and like the mom. I thought their heads and faces were like very wonky compared to everything else around them.
Yeah, when I first seen like the family come like on the screen or whatever,
Hmm.
my first thought was as the wind rises.
True,
Like
true. Like little
like
top heavy heads.
like it literally like the character, the facial design and character design
Right.
looks straight out of like if you wouldn't like if I didn't know any better, I would assume that this is like a sequel to like As the Wind Rises because like the dad like literally looks just like the MC in The Wind Rises. So um like it they just look so similar. You could tell it was like Ghibli straight away. Like not all Ghibli have the same like character design, like facial design or whatever, but when they do, like it just looks so similar. Like it looks like they can be the same people. So
Yeah, you're like, yeah, you know who drew this.
yeah.
Drew this. Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, outside of like the character designs, like you said, um, I don't know. I thought everything like the backgrounds, like, as always, look fucking amazing. I like the detail in the granny's face with her wrinkles and how she, even how she smiles and her teeth and everything. I know Dan does not like teeth. In animated characters, he hates it. But I thought it was really well done. I mean, as always. So Miyazaki don't miss. That's just how it goes. And another thing that's always like present, I feel like is always present in Ghibli films is like the portrayal of like nature. Uh, and what did you think about the portrayal of nature and like the countryside in this film? I think people, to add to my question, I think people think the countryside's kind of boring or vast and empty. And I know you live in the country yourself. I was raised in the country in a rural area, but what's your thoughts on it?
Like this movie actually done a pretty decent job of portraying what it's like to be out in the country. I've only seen like one other like movie to do it somewhat similar, and that was Wolf Children. Like they done a phenomenal job with Wolf
Right.
Children. So so considering that like when I first started watching this movie and they moved out in the countryside, I instantly thought of Wolf Children. That just means like they done such a great job of like displaying how the country is and how free and like wild it is. And it's always a fun time seeing how Ghibli Miyazaki puts nature into his films too, because like you said, they're in every film. It just depends on how like puts them in there, what they mean or whatever. And like I said, I thought this was a pretty chill movie
Hmm.
with, and I don't think there was a whole lot of uh things besides like nature, but going on for it though.
That's true. One thing that I like how he portrayed it, at least living out in the countryside, is yes, there's this big wide open spaces. I mean, you're gonna have farming naturally, a lot of agriculture, and then you have some woods, trees naturally, and then. But one thing I really liked was like how communal the community was. The community was like you go to a city. like where I live for Charlotte or I've lived in New York City, where there's millions of people around, but you can still feel alone in the city. And it's funny how you go into the country where everybody knows each other. Um, Everybody goes to each other's houses at least every once in a while, and you know your neighbors and your community on a deeper level. I feel like, and that was portrayed really really well in this film.
Yeah, and like I said, it reminded me of Wolf Children because they do it well too. Like they showcase that, like, even though you just moved here, like your neighbor is like family already. You can trust them with basically anything just as soon as you move there, and I enjoy seeing that because a lot of the ways that's the way it is most of the times, in real life too. Or the way it used to be. Like it may not be that way much anymore. So
um, I don't have this written down, but I do want to ask, like, how did you like the focus on like family? On like really just four characters, five if you count Totoro and the Totoros. I'm gonna say I don't know what else to call them. um, how did you enjoy that? And like, how did that add to like the feel of the movie?
so like I that's the aspect that I really enjoyed. So like I think the reason why I enjoyed this so much is because it was pretty relatable to me. Like like them little girls, like I seen my like that's basically how my sister acted, when we was kids. That's the way we acted when we was kids. And that's the way we lived, just outside, running around doing shit. We lived in the country. So like I seen like that seeing the family aspect and seeing, you know, how they was portrayed was one thing that like made this movie so good for me. So
Right. And this really isn't like a spoiler or anything, but when the father, Tatsuo, uh, kind of starts working at the house, I think he's studying or writing or whatever he's doing at the home for work. And my just kind of like just goes outside and is expected just to be outside all day.
yeah.
And I mean, that's how it is. Like you said it growing up in the country, like you just go outside and you fucking do shit all day. Like you're bored,
Yeah.
but like you make something out of nothing every day. And
Eh,
that was a blast from a blast from the past from my childhood as well.
yeah. I mean, my mom and them always told me, like either stay in or stay out. And usually we chose to stay out. And she's like, don't come back until like we can't afford to be opening the door. So don't come back in until, time to eat or whatever. So
Gotta keep
unless
that
you need
AC
to.
in the South, dog.
Yeah. So that's just how it was, like we would just roam the countryside, we had like our just go anywhere.
Right, you hop
I
on a
mean,
bike, you go down the street, man.
yeah. So I mean, it's just the way it was, and that's what I'm saying. Like it was just so relatable for my childhood. It felt like I was watching bits and pieces of my childhood, mine and my sister. So
True, true, true. Do you think that like so this movie wasn't not for me personally. I'll just be uh upfront about that. But like I think that really does lend itself to this movie's wide appeal. This is a lot of people's, I'm not gonna say favorite, but one of their favorite Ghibli films. Um, and now that we're sitting here talking about it and how relatable it is actually, and it was relatable to me and you, now that you said it, um, I kind of do understand why people like it, you know, even though I don't. But were there any characters in it specifically that you thought were like some of your favorites or least favorites for the film?
um, I liked what's her name, May. I liked
Hmm.
May quite a bit. So like there's two sisters, like they was all obviously my favorites. I thought they done a real good job at like portraying how like kids act. Like they done a wonderful job with that. Like every situation that they got into, like if you think about it, that's how a kid is gonna act. You know,
For
uh,
sure,
like
actually, yeah.
every situation. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about it. And May was just so 4-year old. You know what I mean? She was a 4-year old, and it's always cool, cute, whatever to see a 4-year-old doing 4-year-old things. So
It is. It is. It inspires a sense of wonder. And
yeah,
I think they did a good job of that. If I had to explain this film, it was like kind of viewing the world through a child's eyes again.
yeah.
Um, I think this is a great movie to watch if you like have kids, young kids, or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I think they'll relate with this a ton, whether they're city kids, or from the suburbs or from the country, because like the childhood experience, I think for everybody is somewhat relatable. Um, but where would you rank this movie versus some of the Ghibli films that you've watched, or some of the ones that we reviewed on this show?
So I haven't watched like a whole lot of Ghibli movies outside of the ones we've done on here because I know we're trying to cover them all eventually, for the podcast.
Hmm.
Um, I think, honestly, this movie is probably like my second favorite movie. Spirit of the Way. I really enjoyed Spirit of the Way. This is probably right behind Spirit of the Way. Just because, like I said, it's so relatable. And like it's more like a slice of life vibes. Uh, and like I said, it's I'm a big fan of slice of life, especially if it's kind of relatable to me. Like there's not like a whole lot of uh tragic things happening in this show. I don't even think there is any tragic things happening, honestly.
No,
But like it's so upbeat and lighthearted for the most part, and I just really vibe with that. So
got you, got you. Unfortunate that you didn't put The Wind Rises at the top because that's my favorite. I think it's like one of the three things that we've watched that I've given a 9 or better. And I still think The Wind Rises, I think I did a 9.3 on it or something like that, 9.1 or a 9.3. And to me it holds up. But I have a personal relationship with that show and the things in it. So it's great. Um for me though, this is probably the worst one I've watched. There was not a ton of plot. I don't think I'm in a place in my life where I would watch something like this on my own, or that I would rewatch it. Maybe I get down the line, watch this with like little cousins or nieces or nephews, and I think it would be cool to watch it with them. Or if I was younger, maybe around 10 years old, I think I would have really enjoyed this movie, and it would probably got my heart beating out of my chest at certain points if I was like 7 or 8, 9 years old, probably younger even still. Because it would have been way more relatable because I would actually be a young child. But not that it's poorly done, it's just not for me and where I am in my own life right now.
yeah, that
Um,
makes perfect sense. So
Thank you. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Well, super crazy. Um, so to kind of start closing out our spoiler-free zone, so who would you recommend this movie to, and why?
so like Bass was saying, it's hit or miss. So either you're gonna like it if you're like a younger kid or whatever, or and it's hit or miss if you're older like us. Like if the nostalgia factor and like the relatability, like if you factor those in, like if it could be hit or miss for like people like us. But I feel like if you don't enjoy like the slice of life type stuff with like just the character and stuff going on and like the very little plot points or whatever, I don't know if you will enjoy this unless, like I said, the relatability slash nostalgia stuff, growing up, uh, hits, differently. So I think that's who I would try to recommend it to is probably like a younger kid, um, that's interested in anime or has watched anime or anything like that, or maybe somebody that really just likes the slice of life, like chill vibes, stuff like that. Especially if they can relate to this because it does make it such a way better movie if you can relate to some of the things that are happening. So
True, true. And for me, I think I'm going to start with somebody I would not recommend this to. If somebody says, "Hey, I want to start watching some of the Ghibli films," I would probably not start with this one.
No.
I would give them something maybe like Princess Mononoke, especially if like they're around my age. The Wind Rises, I'm always going to recommend that. That shit is gas. Um, but yeah, there's so many other ones I think you could start with that are like better representations of what Ghibli as a whole, what their discography is as a whole, or filmography. I don't know what the real word for that is, but their what their work stands for as a whole, which is a little bit more plot, a little bit goes a little bit deeper, but it still does have the same elements as something like this, like Totoro. Who I would recommend it to, though, is families. I think many kids will enjoy this. Like you said, people that like slice of life that are looking to watch something more chill. I think this is a good like late night movie. You're about to go to sleep, or maybe it's 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's like, I'm just gonna throw something on to watch while I hang out and chill. I think it'd be really good for that. Um, Maybe because I was still a little wound up from work, and I was like, "What am I doing here? I want my time back. What's going on right now? Where is this going?" So maybe I was still a little bit on go. Um, and I don't think I could say this is a bad film. I just don't think I watched it at the right time.
And I wonder if like this being Ghibli's second film has something to do with how much more relaxed it is. You know what I mean? Like maybe they got more braver and started getting into like the more complex things later on, and they just wanted to test the waters and uh be more simplistic and aim for what works, for like kids and stuff like that, uh as their second movie or whatever. You think it
I
had something to do with that?
I think it does actually.
Yeah.
I know when Ghibli started, it wasn't Ghibli, the institution of
Yeah.
Ghibli, right? As we know today, like they started off and they struggled. Um, and I believe, I mean, I was watching. This was a long time ago, so don't quote me on it. But I believe after Castle in the Sky, their first movie, they were still pretty strapped for cash, and they were hovering just above bankruptcy. So it makes sense to do something a little on the safer side. I still think this was challenging for the time that they were in, and some of the subjects we'll talk about in the spoiler zone. But yeah, I think that definitely has something to do with it. I think you hit the nail on the head with that for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, I feel like it's I wouldn't say it's a must watch, but I feel like if you're a Ghibli fan, I feel like that you should probably watch this because you would enjoy it. I'd say so.
I echo that. I think I'm being a little
Yeah.
bit of a stinker today. Um, but to close it out, ratings, my friend.
um, I think that I'm gonna give it around like an 8. Honestly, I don't think I could give it a 9. I don't think it's a 7. I think it's somewhere in the 8 range. I just don't know where in 8 range. Like I said, I really enjoyed it because of relatability. Like just I could see myself and my sister doing the things that um the sisters did, and like the representation of kid behavior in this was just phenomenal. And just for that, like I think it's at least an 8 for me. So
True. I'm gonna help you out here. I'm gonna help you out. One thing I want to do before doing that is like Kanta. His behavior was very 8-year-old behavior. Super shy.
oh yeah.
He could tell he liked Satsuki, but like that has no idea what to do with those emotions. None whatsoever. And it was hilarious.
You like a
Um
grunting the like
he had no idea when she comes into the house. Yeah. Yeah, he has no idea what he's doing yet. Um, but what I wanted to ask you was, if I told you you can't give it an 8, you got to give it a 7 or a 9. Which one would you give?
if I can't give it an 8 and I'd have to give it a 7 or 9. Honestly, like it's really hard. But I would probably go with 9 because 7 I just don't think it. I don't think it deserves a 7. It's closer. It would have to be closer to a 9,
Okay.
honestly.
So we'll go high eights then.
There we go. I like your little strategy there. So
No
so does
problem. No
does that
problem.
mean that you're gonna give it a 9 as well?
Okay, now let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes now. Um, get the ABS working. But I'm gonna give it a significantly lower rating. I think in the future I will probably give this a higher rating if and when I rewatch it or if I try to introduce somebody to the film, which I can see myself doing. I'm gonna give it like a 6.4, which admittedly is probably a low ball, but that's just how I'm feeling right now. Um, and it has the potential to get in that mid 7, high 7 range for me in the future. Um, it's honestly grew. I watched this yesterday, 24 hours ago. I finished it. Um, and sitting here thinking about it, having to analyze it for the podcast and write all these questions for us, I've definitely started having a higher opinion on it even now. When I
Yeah, I mean,
finished it, I was like, "This was so mid." I was gonna give it like around a 5. This time yesterday, I was thinking like 5.5, so it's already working its way up.
I really do think that if you watch it again in a couple months or like next year or something, I think that you would be more favorable to it because you know I really do think that on the things that they done well, they did them well. Um, just like the kid, like I said, I can't get away from like the kids portrayal, portrayal of kids. Like they just done that so well.
Right.
Like so.
I'm not so tilted that I would say this is a bad movie. I am not that tilted right now, but I don't think I'm being completely objective to be quite honest with you and our audience. But next, guys, we have our spoiler zone. We're going to do a deeper dive into the plot, what plot there is. So if you have not seen this movie yet, go watch it and come back and join us for this discussion. I think you're going to enjoy this part as well. So I want to start this section off with some of the magical creatures that we saw. Um, at first, I thought they weren't even real. I thought they were like more like a coping mechanism for the kids, like for Mai and Satsuki, because their mother was in the hospital. Did you ever at any point think that?
I didn't really think there was a coping mechanism, but um being as this is one of the later Ghibli movies that we've seen, I actually thought that it was going to be a little bit darker. You know, does that make sense? Like
We watched a couple dark ones. Yeah.
yeah, I thought that like they was gonna I thought some evil shit was gonna start happening because I didn't really like know anything about this, you know. I
Yeah.
just know that like Totoro, obviously the giant uh I always want to
Forest
call it an
spirit.
owl. It looks like an owl kinda roughly.
How does it look like an owl, Tyler?
Bro, you're
I
telling me.
gotta I gotta challenge that. I gotta challenge.
I'm just saying what I see. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
All right. All right. All right.
I don't know. It just looks like that to me. I've always thought it was something like that, like a big owl or something like that. But knowing that that's like the mascot or whatever of Ghibli,
Mhm.
like I didn't really think that it was gonna be like a bad um like animal or spirit or whatever because I didn't really know what it was at the time. But I definitely thought that there was going to be some bad shit start happening. Especially they kept on bringing up haunted house and like spirits and stuff like that, and they kept on trying to bring that up early in the beginning. So I really thought something like that was going to happen.
Yeah,
But
me too. For probably the first 40 minutes, 45 minutes, I was like, yeah, something's got to happen. Like, what's going to be our big conflict here? Um, and there was really no real terrible conflict like that. It never happened. And then to your point, like suit sprites were introduced pretty early in the film. We actually saw these in Spirited Away, which I thought was pretty cool. That was, I guess, Spirited Away is a little bit of a callback to this. this film in particular. So I thought that was really cool. But I thought they handled the the supernatural, the spirits really, really cool. Everybody just kind of had already accepted that they were real. We even had like Nanny saying, "Oh, the suit spirits, they're going to decide if you're good people or not, and they'll move on about their lives and get out of your way." And then you also had Kanta saying, "Oh, your house is haunted. I'm not going in there." Yeah, so it was cool. What did you think about how they handled the supernatural here?
Yeah, and I'm gonna go back to the like what you said about the granny. She like just to reiterate my point where I thought something evil was gonna happen. She not only does she say that if they're gonna find out if you're good people or not, and if you're good, they're gonna move out or whatever. But she said that um they probably won't hurt you if you're good people. So
Probably.
like, that just leaves like room for there being the other side where if you're bad people or whatever, if you treat them badly, then they could hurt you. And I don't know if she was just trying to like just do what like older people do to kids and just bullshit them, or not. But like I said, I honestly thought that some shit was about to start happening. Um, but I think they did it really well. Like all the supernatural stuff, especially when we started getting into the little Totoro minions or whatever, and
Hmm.
like Totoro himself, and like all that's when the movie got more funner. I know that's not a word, but um, I felt like it was more of a Ghibli film at that point when we started getting all these like cat buses and like the weird Totoro stuff that was going on. So
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It definitely upped the ante when they all the creatures and things. The cat bus was cool. That was like the coolest
yeah,
thing in the movie to me.
the
Um,
headlights, bro, that was awesome.
yeah, that was sick. It was pretty sick. Um, One scene that like particularly like sticks out to me, and like if I was a kid or if I had kids or something like that, um, the scene when they're in the bathtub and like the windstorm's like raging outside and it's like picking up the tin roof a little bit and the kids start getting scared. And the dad kind of senses it, and like I think a scene or two before that, the granny was talking about what you were just saying. If you're good people, they won't hurt you. Don't worry about it. And I thought it was really cool. And every parent has to do this at some point. Like distract your kid, make them laugh. You get into a tickle fight because nothing's really bad is gonna happen. So I really like seeing that family dynamic, him like taking care of his kids right there, while they're all sitting in the bathtub. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, because
Um,
he was scared too.
yeah, you could tell he was like, if because at first he was like, nothing's, there's nothing to be worried about. And then like the storm picks up and we had like the suit, sprites and stuff like that crawling around, and he's like, okay, how do I make everybody feel better? What the fuck's going on right now?
How do I make them feel like we're not gonna die?
Right, right, right. Um, And I think if I was a kid, like I definitely would have felt uneasy um in that scene before they started laughing because it did seem like a sense of like impending doom right there. You have that windstorm, you have all that chattering of the house. It seems like their house is gonna fucking blow over. Um,
And we know it's not very sturdy because they was playing with the freaking one of the porch the beams or whatever and trying to make it fall down or some
oh,
shit.
that house
So
was a piece of shit. For sure. They very easily could have broken that. And there's just so many of those instances like where something bad, definitely something majorly bad could have happened to the kids or the family or whoever in the story, and you kinda just skirt by it a little bit. I'm a lot like in real life, like how much stupid shit did you do when you were like a small child where you definitely couldn't have gotten hurt and you just happened not to?
luck, bro. you know.
100%, 100%. So it definitely makes the story feel real. Um, but and then you like you said, you have the introduction of Totoro. What were your first impressions of him or it?
uh, like at that point, I was still like I was still kind of iffy on if this movie was gonna be take a dark twist or not. Um, like it was still up in the air. So I was like, this dude looks like a Snorlax. Like it's what I thought. Like that's what he reminded me of.
No, he was even sleeping. Yeah.
Like Snorlax. I mean, I thought it was gonna be more of I thought it was gonna be more of something happening when May first met Totoro though. Um, like she landed on his belly or whatever, and or climbed on his belly and stuff, and ended up falling asleep on his chest or whatever. And I felt like Totoro was gonna wake up and be surprised or something, but he's literally like a Snorlax. Like he
He was
just
vibing. Yeah.
don't really give a shit. Like he's just sleeping. Like, and I think they was trying to portray that maybe he sleeps during the day and comes out at night. Um, kind of thing, like hibernates type thing.
Mhm.
Which is what it seemed like. He was hibernating because he just couldn't care that um a child
This
was on
random
his
child.
belly. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, yeah, like the first time he opened his eyes and like he kind of went back to sleep, and then Maya was like would not leave him alone, like just like crawling all over him, and he woke back up again, and she's like, being super excited like a 3 or 4 year old is. It's like, what's your name? And he's just like kind of like roar growls, or like it's like I don't know if that's a yawn. I don't know what we really got out of him there. And she was like, oh, so Totoro.
Yeah,
And
I
I thought
think
that
he was
was
yawning at that point,
oh,
is what I
okay.
got out of it.
And that's fair. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool scene. But yeah, I thought he was gonna be like angry or something like that, or really surprised, like you said. Um, yeah, it was a cool little scene there. Um, but did you have a favorite spirit? I guess I was gonna say
Um,
outside of Totoro, but yeah, you can include him. Fuck it.
uh, I don't think I don't know. Totoro don't even like come into like the contention of favorites until like the after the umbrella scene. Honestly, like he doesn't really do a whole lot that would make you like want to pick him. I think the little minion things, the what was it, the white one and the darker one with the that looks more like Totoro, right? The
Hmm.
blue one or whatever. Those was real fun, like the white one or whatever that we seen first, and like we followed it around first a lot. I really liked that one. It had some fun little antics or whatever going for it when May was chasing it underneath like to the house or whatever. So, but
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. I like how when he first started noticing that May was like following him, like he like turned around and he was like looking at the ground and looked at the other side. And he's like, this motherfucker can see me. Let me get up out of here. It's like, what is she looking at? Oh, it's me. Um, my favorite though, I'm gonna have to say the cat bus.
oh yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's another good one too. It's it was that it sucks that we seen that so late, like in the last half of the movie or whatever.
Hmm.
Well, actually last quarter I think of the movie. Because that was such a great and imaginative thing that Miyazaki like thought up. So
That's true, and I
yeah.
really do also like how like the forest spirits. That's what I'm gonna call them. I think that's what they called them in the movie. Um, like how connected to nature they were. And you had Totoro and the little Totoros, helping grow trees and things like that in the middle
Yeah.
of the night, playing the flute. And then the cat bus was like the wind, because like none of the adults, or really even the other kids could see it. But like every time it went by, it was just like, oh, a gust of wind, and that was like the cat bus.
My one of my favorite things with the spirits or whatever was them coming at nighttime to the like plant area or whatever, and Totoro has the umbrella that May and them gave him, and other two little Totoro, the minion things, had like makeshift umbrellas doing the same shit, and that was so cute. And then after they got done with that little ritual thing, they like one of them ate theirs or whatever. So like they start eating it, and I'm just like it was like a stem with a leaf on top. That was their umbrella, and I thought that was really cute and funny.
It's just so whimsical, this movie, man. So damn whimsical. But yeah, for me, man, the cat bus, it was the coolest thing. I like how they made the door just like stretch open, and like you said earlier, the headlights, the eyes for the headlights, it was really cool. And it had like 10 legs, but it wasn't creepy looking at the same time.
Oh, it
So
was
I don't know
cool.
how you pull that off, but they did it. Um,
The smiles was creepy though, like the
yes.
Totoro smile and the cat bus smile. Like that's, if I was a kid, I would probably be hesitant towards being around something that smiled like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that big, like, wide smile with, like, the 1,000-mile stare behind it. Yeah. Yeah, I think you naturally stay away from shit like that.
Oh shit! But
And next I kinda wanted to talk about, like, the mother, like, how did her illness impact the story, or did it for you?
uh, I don't know if they said it. I don't know. Did they introduce the mom's illness like early in the movie, or was it like later on?
It was pretty
Before.
early, because I think whenever, like, whenever nanny or somebody, like, they said, "Hey, my mom is in the hospital around here." So they kinda told us pretty early in the story.
Okay, so I didn't either I didn't catch that or I didn't think that it was a an important piece of information, so I just didn't retain it. Um, so because when we actually got to some of the scenes of them actually talking about like the mom being in hospital or something, it was kind of a surprise to me. I honestly thought they didn't have a mom. I to be honest with you. So, like I said, I don't really know why I missed that or how I missed that, but I did somehow. Uh,
Okay.
so this was kind of like a I guess what I'm trying to say is this was kind of like a shock to me when it got brought up because I was like, wait a minute, where did this come from?
What the
you
fuck?
know, like like we're just chilling over here, watching these two girls, play around, do kid shit, and
Mhm.
dad's just over here doing his best and like honestly he's letting them have a lot more freedom and stuff than a lot of people would at their ages but and then it's just like, oh, by the way, my mom's got a very bad illness and she can't never leave the hospital, blah blah blah. I'm just like, bro, where did this come from? It was such a like chill movie, lighthearted movie.
No, dude, they mentioned that it had to be in the first 10 to 15 minutes. Somebody said something about it.
I
Because
missed it.
when they were actually moving out there with like the truck and the moving people, um, I was like, "Where's the mom? This is so
Yeah.
happy, but where is the mom?" So I was like really listening out for it, though, and I thought they handled like her illness very well. I've kind of been in that situation where my mom's been sick and in the hospital for an extended amount of time, and I feel like as a dad, looking back, my dad did a good job of making sure like we all felt like together. That we're all kind of like relying on each other for like emotional support, and he was doing a really good job. And I think that was kind of why he was giving them a little bit more freedom than you would normally see. One, this is set in 1950s Japan. I don't know about I don't know about your experiences, but even in the 90s for me, my mom used to let me, well, I guess told me, I thought I was getting let to, go in the store and, like, buy milk and eggs and stuff like that and, like, bread.
Yeah, by yourself.
Yeah, like, I would just 3 I'm serious, like, 3 years old, just go, "Hey, I'm gonna sit I'm gonna sit in the car right here at the entrance. Go in there, and here's the money, and go get the milk. Get the blue milk. That's the 2%, and get 12 eggs or like a carton of eggs. Kid know what a fucking carton of egg looks like. Um, but you would never see that in America today.
No, not like when I was a kid, like we done so much shit. Like I was driving on the roads when I was 12, 13 years old. I was
Right, that's what
driving
I'm
to the
saying.
store, like, allegedly, but but you know what I
I
mean?
think the
Like,
statutes of limitations is up on that one, man. We're good.
I mean, it's just a different time, like, the further back you go, like, it's just more, I guess, relaxed, I guess, I don't know. Nowadays, you can't really be too trusting, 'cause,
Right. The little kids
it's a
have cell
different.
phones.
Yeah,
They have the locations of their kids at all times. I mean, it's a crazy world we're living
yeah.
in. So I definitely think it's justified. But yeah, as the 1950s, like he was just let my go play all day outside. You'll figure out how to get home, or I'll come find you. Something or the other. We'll work it
Just
out.
I mean, the number one rule is don't die and
Right. Right.
stay somewhere around the house, so
Exactly. I remember my mom. She even made me memorize our address and their names, just in
that
case
way
I
just
ever
in
got
case.
lost. Yeah,
Yeah.
just in ever case I ever got lost. Because y and the phone book was a thing back then, so they would be able to call my parents' house.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
They
back
they
then, cell phones wasn't like a huge thing, not everybody had them, especially kids. Kids didn't have them.
no, I didn't get a cell phone till I was, like, 16.
Yeah. So, like, it was
No, I was
more like the house
14, yeah.
phones. Everybody had house phones. Hardly anybody had internet. Like these young kids,
Pagers.
like they don't know. You know what I mean? They don't know how we used to live life.
No, you would have to, like, page your dad at work from, like, school if something happened, and they would, like, see, it's, like, the school on their little pager that they got clipped to their belt. Yeah, dude. But, yeah, you could definitely get the sense that, um, this was just, like, the before 4 times. I'm sure to some of our viewers, we're even ancient. Me being, 31 years old or something of the sort. Um, but did you think that, like, in your opinion, did the family like behave like a realistic family? Like, could these have been real people?
I think so. Like I was saying in the spoiler free zone, one of my favorite things about this movie was the fact that they had realistic dialogue and reactions, especially the kids. Like say for example when they was picking the corn and shit, right? So like uh you know the granny said something along the lines of, even my vegetables will heal your mother, blah blah blah. It'll make her better instantly.
Mhm.
Well, May as a 4-year old, she's picking corn and she gets in her head like, this is what my mother needs in order to come home to us or whatever. And I thought that was pretty realistic. And then when they got the phone call or whatever,
Mhm.
or they pay the fax or telegram, I don't know, I don't remember what it was. It was like mail saying that they should call the hospital. Uh, it instantly went to the older one's head. It's like, hey, mom, she's probably dying. That's literally what a kid her age would do. And then you have May over here. She's going to take it into her own hands and take the corn to the hospital because she thinks her mom's dying or whatever. And she feels like that's the only thing she can do. That's so what a kid would do. Like, that's
Yes.
what, I don't even know how
Like, take
old.
everything very literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even know how old Sasuke was, but like she was a kid trying to act grown up, and like she acted just like that. And then you had the 4-year old May, and she acted just like she should act as a 4-year old. So like that's what I really loved about this movie, and like it was just really really realistic in what they was trying to do or what they was saying and doing. So
True. I mean, even, like, when, after they got the phone call and May was like, "Oh, it's not," and then they realized nothing was seriously wrong. Uh, May was like, "Oh, she doesn't get to come home this weekend. It's so unfair," and, like, she's, like, crying about it. And Satsuki, she it kinda just boils over, and she's like, "Do you want mom to die?" Blah, 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 blah. She
yeah.
starts yelling at her little sister, and, like, I've been there. I'm a big brother. Like, you say some mean shit sometimes, and doesn't make doesn't mean you love them any less or, like, that you're mean to them all the time. It was just like, you yourself were not in a good emotional place,
Yeah.
and you're 10 and under, like you don't have a way, unless you've been given those skills, a way to regulate that in a healthy way. So you kind of like lash out a little bit. Um, and the reaction from May, wanting to start crying, you kind of stand there and start crying, and then you have Kanta there is like, "Hey, you're gonna be okay," and she's so mean, so mean. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, that's I've seen that before. I've definitely seen that before." But yeah, they felt so real, man. Everybody felt so real. Even like the townspeople, um, stopping and helping when they can, and then you have like the couple that was on the way back from the hospital, and they're like, "We didn't see if any toddlers walking the streets, uh, and we just came from the hospital." But they're like, you kind of see they're like sitting there and like, okay, how much can we really help these people? And they go like, "Hey, I hope you find her," and they just keep going about their day. Um, Not that they didn't care; it's just like, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah. So
So I
I
thought it was really cool.
one like when I seen that, like I guess it's like a different time period or whatever, but I feel like that if you seen a kid running around like that, all by themselves, I feel like it would be hard to just leave them, to just leave them and let them run around by themselves still, especially since their sister is lost. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I feel like as an adult, you would have to. It would make sense to kind of like take charge and watch over them somewhat, to the best of your abilities or whatever. So
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. That move was still pretty cold, but it's something I could see somebody doing for sure. They don't have
yeah,
anything invested in it. Maybe they have somewhere to be. Their life goes on. But yeah, everybody felt so real. The dad felt really real. He was a well-adjusted, uh,
archaeologist, I think,
yeah, he
right?
was an archaeologist, yes, and even the mother, who was sick, but every time her family showed up, like, she was so happy, um, but not like in a cartoony or even like an anime way where, like, it's overly happy. It's like, "My family's here." Like, here's, like, some relief, and I get to laugh and sit here with my kids and my husband. Um, and I think a lot of times in, like I said, animated, whether it's film or TV, when something sad's going on, maybe all the characters are a little droopy, but that's just not the reality. If one of your family members is sick or in the hospital, you're still gonna laugh. You're still gonna have a good time around the rest of your family. Um, Not that you forgot about them or simply as life goes on. It's just you kind of use the humor and the fun to like escape from that. And I think they did a really good job at that and how real that was for me. And like I said, I've been through a situation like that, and it's you look back and it was definitely a bad time, but there were still some really special moments that came out of it.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
you know, being like, so I want to say before we get past this is like the first 30 to 40 minutes or so, like I mostly had a smile on my face just watching these two girls, run around doing kid shit, especially like you could obviously see like the little sister May, she was trying to be just like, Satsuki. She was doing what she did, she was repeating her, like she was imitating her.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch. I was smiling, laughing, watching their behaviors. Um, but then, out of nowhere, like the whole mom thing, the mom situation, and the corn thing, and stuff like that came out, and I didn't like. I thought that I was gonna get away from not crying in this movie, considering I was
No,
laughing and
sir.
smiling for the first 40 some minutes,
Yeah.
and it got me, bro. Like the whole mom thing. I guess I got like a soft spot for like when they portray like moms and stuff, especially when it's sadder. Even though like she wasn't in no real danger, like supposedly, like
Mhm.
it was just like imagine the kids like over dramatizing things or whatever, over imagining things and overreacting and like it got me like the whole corn thing, like her wanting to take the corn to her mom and leaving it or whatever, and Like it got me, bro. So I just wanted to say that before we moved on from the sad stuff. So
Right, right. I mean, even that, it's like I think that that's just how kids would react. Like you said, it's very
yeah,
realistic. Us as adults, we wouldn't probably be running to the neighbors or anything like that, but we would feel like that on the inside.
yeah,
You would still be scared because, like, what the fuck happened to my mom? But we'd be super, kind of like not like chill, but like more like, okay, I'm not gonna openly freak out, but inside I'm screaming, "What the fuck is going on right now?" So yeah.
yeah. And you also got to think like today's day and age or whatever is it's easier like to get in contact with um hospitals or whatever, in case they want you or whatever. Um, and as adults, like it's like we still feel like overwhelmed or whatever, but as a kid, like you overreact. You
You don't
overreact
know
to
what to do with that
situations
emotion. Yeah.
and you think the worst, as adults, like you think that, oh, maybe there's something bad happening, but you don't automatically assume the bear like the absolute worst. Like they was assuming she was gonna die or she was dying or
Right.
whatever. Which as soon as the dad got in touch, he was like, "Oh, well, I wonder what they want." Like I'll call them and I'll let you know or whatever.
Mhm.
And like he's not too worried, but he's a little bit worried, but he's
Yeah, he's
not super worried.
concerned, but he's not,
And
like, freaking
yeah,
out immediately, yeah.
and they're like thinking that he's gonna die or she's gonna die or whatever. So like that's just a difference. And like we've been saying this whole time, like the portrayal of like the realistic portrayal of the kids and like people with the dialogues and stuff is just so you know on another level with this show. So
I agree, I agree, and Miyazaki, he said it sometimes, it's like, anime can be, um it's people that don't like people making shows about people. So it can sometimes come off unrealistic. And he was like, he likes to travel and meet different kinds of people, and he wants to tell that kind of story. More something that's real, a little bit more vague and not definite. And he definitely hit the nail on the head on this one once again. Tyler, I'm sitting here, and as we're talking about this show, or this film, I'm liking it more and more. I'm starting to appreciate it more and more. So I might have to go back on my 6.2 rating or a 6.4 rating. But we'll see. We'll see.
bro,
Um,
it's all about the this movie is all about the characters and the dialogue and the realistic representation of how people act in these situations and like the kids' imaginations too. Like you put all that together, like it does what it's trying to do, even though it's simplistic. So
yes, y'all. I had a hard week. I had a hard week. So maybe I'm just being a sourpuss. Um, but so I always have to ask, and I always will ask. Um, what was the main theme for you? And we know we were focusing on the characters, and but what were the main theme or themes for you?
I think like you said in the beginning, I think you said something like you're seeing the world through a kid's point of view or perspective. And I think that that's what it's doing. I think that's one of the themes is like you're seeing the kid's point of view and how their imagination works. You couple that with like the the nature themes and like the um, what it's doing there. Like if you're good to nature or whatever, if you take care of nature, good to nature, it's gonna take care of you back or whatever.
Right.
I think those two were the biggest themes. Of the show. I don't know what else it had going for it, honestly. Do you have
I
any
was
ideas?
thinking maybe like love or compassion or like I think compassion's a big theme. I think love, family. Obviously, this was focused on
Yeah,
this family of four, and like what you said, nature. With
yeah,
Ghibli, there's always a sense of nature, and Miyazaki definitely has. has a great respect for it because it's in every one of his films in some way or the other. You can tell how much he respects nature, and the spiritual, because most of them have spiritual elements. Even in The Wind Rises, where it's more about industrialism and planes, there's that sense of wonder in nature. There's an earthquake in that, and you have the Italian airplane aeronautical engineer. So yeah, I think it's a lot of the same things like you said.
And like I think that nature and spirits and stuff like that play a huge role in like Japanese society and culture.
Hmm.
That it doesn't like stop at Ghibli. It doesn't stop at Miyazaki. Like you got like what's his name, Shinkai Makoto or whatever, that does like Your Name and Suzume and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Like they like deal with nature heavily. I think that like a lot of like quite a bit of movies, like Japanese movies or anime movies, like they have themes of nature and like nature spirits and stuff like that in their movies, and like I think that comes from like the Japanese like culture,
I think
like
so.
it's just play nature and spirits and stuff plays a big part in I think their culture and like beliefs and stuff like that. So
Right, like with some things that we would call mythology,
yeah,
and and the Japanese people being so tied to their lane because they are an island nation. Um, they have a great respect for nature. They have a ton of earthquakes. I mean, Japan's landmass has to be less than 5% of the world's landmass, but I know that they have over 10% of the world's earthquakes. They respect and they fear nature. They have a lot of volcanoes as well. But they see the beauty in it. You know what I'm saying? And it shapes their lives. Like that's the reason historically, a lot of their houses are just made out of wood and paper. It's because it can easily they can easily break in a hurricane or earthquake, but they can be rebuilt quickly too. So they're
yeah.
tied to the nature. Less so than us with our bullshit ass houses. Um, Very cheaply built. But we've talked about a ton of our favorite scenes, but I think one that stands out for me is like the bus stop scene. Um, I know this film is like known for that, but I I didn't really think it was this cool, and it was also kind of terrifying, wasn't it?
Yeah, it kinda I think at this point, like, you still had, like, the thoughts of, will it or won't it, like, be have become, like, darker, twisted, or whatever, and I think that this is one of those things where, like, they're sitting there waiting on their dad, and, like, you just feel like I don't know, dread for them or whatever. Like they're out here trying to do something good and their dad's not coming home. Why is he not coming home? Like you're thinking the worst. They're probably thinking the worst. May's over here trying to, not fall asleep or whatever.
Hmm.
And then you got Totoro come up out of the blue. Not sure why he came, and this was Sasuke's first time seeing Totoro. Like I'd be scared to death. You know what I mean?
Yes, and she was so nice. She gave him the umbrella because he was using the leaf and the stem method, and
Yeah.
only really had an umbrella over his head, and the rest of his body was completely in the rain. Terrible umbrella. But yeah, I was really. This is another one of those scenes where like a 10-year-old me or like a 5-year-old me would um, be very afraid because they already don't have their mom at home. Um, it's gotten dark and they're standing there at the bus stop waiting on their dad. And Totoro doesn't need to be there. I think he kind of came there to like keep them company, and really only left when he knew the dad was about to show up.
So what do you think was this why do you think he had a fascination with the raindrops or whatever from the trees?
I don't know, man. I
Like
don't know.
I thought it scared him at first, but like obviously not because like he got like that the way cats do, they show like scared cats or whatever with
Hmm.
the like fur like
Their hair
being
stands up. Yeah.
electrocuted or whatever. That's kind of what they was showing for him every time like the raindrop would like fall from the tree or whatever. And then he started like making them fall, jumping and making them fall. And like I don't know, I thought that was a pretty neat scene. So
Yeah, I think he was just like entertained. Um, and he was entertained by it. So he started stomping and making it happen. So it was a cool little scene. And like it went from that like dark, them standing at the bus stop all evening to him just like kind of like stomping around in the rain. So it was cool. You kind of like they had that constant back and forth between this could get really dark, but everything ends up okay.
yeah, and I think we feel like it could get dark and not because we've seen other Ghibli movies that have like that darker side to it. And I think our last Ghibli movie was Princess Mononoke, and you see how that went. So like we thought something was coming, but I guess being the second film or whatever, they wanted to keep it PG or whatever. So
True. Um, and since you brought that up, I think they did take some risk with this film. I think, I mean, throughout film history, there's been like this larger audience in the film industry that says like they try to keep very safe movies for children and very simple conflict and a nice clean ending and not have anything too scary going on. But somebody's mom being sick is very scary. Somebody's dad coming home is not very scary. I mean, it's very scary. Um, your little sister, a 4-year-old being lost is very scary. And
yeah.
we felt some sense of some tension from it. I mean, imagine if you were a kid watching this. This is definitely a kids movie. I think that they took some risk there, and I don't think at the time when they made this, they probably could have made this under another studio,
Yeah,
or maybe they
and
could, or it would, but it would have been very difficult to include all of those things.
and maybe some of them you can put down as like them trying to teach kids, not to do stuff or something, maybe like the whole, May running off to save her mom or whatever. But like maybe it's trying to teach them not to do that or
Yeah,
whatever.
don't
I
run
don't know.
away. Don't don't run away. Don't try to
Like
run to the hospital.
or don't go wait at a random bus stop for your dad, like he's an adult, like let him handle it. Like I feel like the way they presented them would kind of scare kids into
Right.
not doing them,
Or
right?
or it could be like what my mom used to do. She's a very attentive parent. Like she would be like, "Hey, you see why you shouldn't, like run off for a long ways? Yeah, don't do that. And if I don't come home, you stay at home."
Yeah.
Like she would say stuff like that during movies. It's like, "Don't do that." Well,
Yeah.
you see what they did and how they ended up. Don't do that. So yeah, like you said, there's definitely some teaching moments in there for the kids.
Yeah. But like other than that, like it, the biggest thing for me was them so blatantly talking about the mom dying. Like they literally said dying and death and like several times. I feel like that's I can't really like figure out what that would be trying to tell little kids. You know what I mean? Like maybe cherish your mom. Like I don't know.
Not even
So
that. I think just talking about death,
oh
in
okay.
a kids movie is tough to get past, like a studio
Yeah.
or a director. Yeah, let's not put a sick mom and them talking about her, them dying, and then the kids yelling at each other about the mom dying. Right? I think that's hard to that's a hard pass for a lot of filmmakers.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even though they did it the way a child would do, it was still like when I was watching, I was just like, "What?"
It's like damn, right? Yeah,
Yeah, like it just out of the blue, they started like talking about dying, and like I said, it's realistic. Like this is what happens in real life or whatever. But just because it happened in real life doesn't mean we have to like maybe show that scene, especially since it's probably targeted towards younger kids or whatever. But as adults like us, it's fine. Like we're used to that like side of life, like we've had experiences. But kids, younger kids like that, maybe they haven't like been introduced to like what that stuff means and you
right.
know all that stuff. So
Well, I'm gonna argue, and I think I mean, some people, rightfully so, like, kind of like handhold and baby their kids a little too much. I think in certain ways our kids can handle those kinds of conversations. And I think kids do understand death. I think there's just something very trying to think what the word is, but I think they do understand like death. Um, if you tell a kid something's died, like they get it, like they get it. Even at a very young age, I think so. So I think some people can kind of sell kids short on an experience, especially like a. I think this is a challenging movie for a kid for sure. Like you're saying, it's very challenging, but I think it's something kids could handle. And I honestly think um, people like Disney or any other like Pixar, I think they do need to make more challenging movies for adults and kids. Um, I think we get a lot of kind of like rehashed old like Top Gun or like like the Barbie movie was fantastic, but we've had a Barbie movie. We get a lot of sequels and things we don't need remakes, and I think there's a lack of challenge for audiences in today's age, and it was kind of good to see this.
yeah,
But
like
that's
I
just
said,
my take.
yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it being realistic or whatever. So um, I was just trying to figure out like what they was trying to show
What's the
kids with
point?
that scene. Yeah.
I feel you. I feel
Other
you.
than like just being like a scary moment or whatever. So for like a kid. So
Got
uh
you. Got you.
'cause I don't really know. I can't really think of anything. They was trying to say with that other than like maybe like I said,
This is life.
cherish your mom, like maybe get them introduced to like, don't be mean to your siblings, because stuff like that. So, because I
Mhm.
think they hit on it again. It's like when May got lost or whatever, she was like the last thing I said to her, I was being mean to her the last time I seen her, and like I feel like that was a pretty good moment too. So
True.
realization moment. So
Very true. I think we've been singing a lot of praises for this movie, but I do want to talk about what are some things that the movie could have done better.
um honestly, I'm not real sure. Like I said, I was a big fan of like how the movie went, but like I also said, I'm a big fan of slice of life, and this was like a slice of life in a nutshell, right? Like
Hmm.
it didn't have it just dealt on like dialogue and like the characters and simple plot lines and stuff like that. So, which is kind of like what slice of life is. Um, so I mean, I didn't really find anything too odd except for the part, I don't know if we want to get into it now about like
Let's do
Totoro,
it. Yeah, let's do it.
So, you know, Totoro, we all know what Totoro is, and it's been like a Ghibli, like it's called My Neighbor Totoro. And, Pete from Discord, he wanted to know, was the lack of Totoro's presence surprising and did it affect our enjoyment of the film? And it was surprising because we didn't see Totoro until it was at least halfway through the movie, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think we saw the
And
little Totoro earlier, but like Totoro as we know him.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even after we seen Totoro, we only seen him uh three to four total times in the last half of the movie. For no, it was actually more than that. It was probably more like five or six, but I say he didn't get but about 5 to 10 minutes of screen time through the last half of the movie. Would that be a fair estimate?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
think so. Somewhere around there.
and I feel like the first half of the movie before we seen him, you're wondering like, okay, so when's Totoro coming? Like, when are we gonna see this Totoro?
When's he
Like,
gonna have his moment in the sun? Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's already been 40 minutes and we haven't seen the dude that's on the giant thing that's on the cover, that we know that is Totoro. Um, so like I think it was pretty surprising. I didn't expect it to be Totoro less for a majority of the show, even after he got introduced. I feel like that the show probably would have been over a 9 if Totoro got introduced. The Totoro and the spirits got introduced earlier, and we got more shenanigans with Totoro, because I feel like those was really fun, like the whole like umbrella scene and like the cat bus. We've talked about it a few times where those scenes was like, Ghibli esque. Like those were fun, um, and exciting and interesting. Especially like the night tree growing scene, that was really fun.
Hmm.
Like imagine if we got more of those scenes introduced throughout the whole movie instead of just like here and there sprinkled in the last half of the movie. So
Right. I agree with that. It definitely was surprising. It didn't take away from the film for me, but it definitely could have added more of it could have more of him, or it could have added to it. To definitely to your point. Kind of just echoing what you say. We only saw him a handful of times total. I mean, in general, we only saw him a
yeah,
handful of times. And the fact that this is like Ghibli's mascot, I get it. He's cute and cuddly. Like I get, that sells plushies. At the end of the day, that sells plushies. But yeah, I thought that was it was very surprising him being like the mascot for this studio and having so little time, screen time. But at the same time, he was impactful every time we saw him in some way.
yeah. So, do you think that if you seen more of Totoro, like, do you think that you would enjoy this film more than like what you did today?
Here's something, and I was thinking about it. Here's something that I think would have added a lot to the film for me. If there was a moment where like one of the kids or somebody was not being nice to the forest, or like was hurting nature, and Totoro reacting negatively to it, then like
Okay.
the kids saw and they were like kind of afraid a little bit or something like that. And then like Totoro like kind of calmed down or something like that and was like, "Hey, like don't do that. Don't do that." I think that would have added a lot to me. Um, because it kind of would have made him a little bit more three-dimensional. But he was fine how he was. I just think that would have added to the story for me.
Yeah. Um, like I think that's really the only thing that like it didn't really like take away a lot, but I was stuck wondering for like the first 30-40 minutes, like, where's Totoro or whatever. Like when's Totoro gonna get introduced? Like when are we seeing that? I think that like I also said, like it didn't really like make the score drop, but it took away from potential, I would say. Like it could have potentially been like a more fun, interesting movie compared to, what we did get if Totoro
Right.
was present more often. But I think that's like the only uh thing that it could have possibly done better. Like what do you think? What did you not
Um,
like? What do you think they could have done better?
so I was expecting a more plot-heavy movie, it being a Ghibli film once again. But now that we've kind of sat back and talked about it, it didn't really need to be. That was gonna be my one critique, that I didn't find that there was much plot. We were watching characters, fairly interesting and realistic characters, but I thought it was kind of boring while I was watching it, and that's why I did give it such a low score. I did relate to it. I thought the characters were phenomenal, but there was very little plot to follow, and that's why it kind of failed to keep my attention. There was times where I picked up my phone. I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta watch this because we're gonna be reviewing it." And I had to rewind the fucking movie like 5-10 minutes. Um, so yeah, if there's gonna be one critique, the plot was kind of weak. But I think if I were to still think that after this discussion, I think I would have to say I would have missed the point of the movie.
Yeah, like I do agree. Like the plot is like I've been saying, simplistic and not a whole lot there. But I think we said that it's probably because this is their second film or whatever, and they wanted to be on the safer side. and this is what like worked back then probably, um,
Hmm.
especially like if you're targeting kids or whatever. Um, but like just like Bass said though, like the characters and the realism, like with the dialogue and characters, is kind of what sold me on it, especially like the relatability. Um, like
The movie
it's hard
is
to
the
beat that.
characters. Yeah,
Yeah, like if you're one to watch this for like plot, you're probably not gonna enjoy it. You're probably gonna be like Bass, was, today. He but if you watch it for like the characters and the relatability, the nostalgia, stuff like that, like I think you're gonna have a fun time. You're gonna have a good time. So
for sure. Yeah. And then there's a couple closing questions I want to ask. We're kind of getting long in the tooth for this episode, I think.
I
But
have no idea, but I think so too.
I just kind of can tell we've been sitting here for a minute. So the film seemed to take a turn once kind of May discover Totoro. Um, did you sense a shift in the story? You actually already answered that. So what I'm going to ask you instead is, did you sense any other shifts in the movie that kind of like took an emotional turn?
Yeah, I think so there was this shift. It was kinda there, but I think that the biggest shift for me in far as tones go was actually when they got the telegram or whatever, and the phone call about their mom in the hospital and like that whole situation. I think that it was a lighthearted and chill movie up until that point, and then it turned frantic and I don't like I'm not sure how to describe it. Just frantic and like overreactive, over
Right.
dramatized, which like I said, we're seeing it through a kid's point of view, for the most part. So like it was as it should be. But I feel like that was the biggest turning point of this movie for me was when that phone call happened and like all the stuff started happening and like the whole tone shifted, so
True. And shortly after that, mine got lost. They found the sandal in the pond, and
yeah.
Nanny's freaking out. The whole village is looking for uh May, and like it's just yeah, shit hit the fan. Um, and like yeah, that wasn't enough for me while I was watching it. But I'm having fond memories of this movie all of a sudden. So yeah, I might revise that 6'4". I might have to revise that.
That's what I love about like doing like a podcast or whatever with each other is because even if we're not like high on a movie when we're watching it, we can talk about it and figure out like why we didn't like it and like maybe get us to realize, what we actually did watch. I know I have
Exactly.
issues with it sometimes, trying to figure out what I watched, especially if it gets into too much politics and stuff like that. So
Yeah, but like once we get on here and like break it down, it's like, no, like this shit was actually good as fuck. Like, yeah.
yeah. It actually done what it was trying to do,
Right. And it did it very, very well.
Yeah.
Um, so like kind of the last question I want to ask, what'd you think about the ending?
The ending,
So
uh, remind
so
me
so the cat
kinda.
bus took the two girls home, and then
Okay.
eventually the mom gets to come home for a weekend, and we kind of just get left with that at the very end.
Yeah, so, like, this is one of the parts where I think I teared up a little bit because, the cat bus took the kids. They found May for one thing. Then, they took the kids to the hospital to like they was hiding in a tree or whatever and watching their mom. They're like, "Oh, mom doesn't look like she's in bad shape at all, like she looks like she's doing okay." And like you get some dialogue about the mom being like, "I hope the kids ain't worried, I don't know why they did that, that it doesn't make sense."
Hmm.
And then they get like a little glimpse of like oh, I thought I seen May and Satsuki smiling up in the tree right there. But that can't be right, right? And then they find the corn and like it's got like some some letters inscribed on it or whatever. And I don't even know if it's told us what they said, but I'm sure it was something sweet because it was like, oh, I guess they was here because look, and I kind of teared up at that. Like that was a really sweet moment,
It really was.
So
And what I you talked about the specifics of the ending, so I'll just kind of do the general stuff here. I really like how in all the Ghibli films the movie ends, and it's not all but most. Um, the movie ends, and it's like kind of a very open ending. We don't know if the mom's gonna get better. She very well could die. But we hope she's gonna get better. The kids end up in a better place. I feel like they've had some transformation and grown throughout the film. But yeah, it's kind of like life. It goes on. These characters are gonna go on. And we don't know what's gonna happen, and that's what it is. That's what it's kind of like life. You just keep
yeah,
going.
I feel like they got like a really good uh community to grow with though. Like they moved to a really good part where they can like behave as kids and not have to worry so much. And you got the community, uh, you know, stepping in from day one, just being there for them or whatever, being supportive.
Hmm.
Um, and I like the mother acts like it's not too big of a deal. As far as her sickness, obviously it is because she's hospitalized or whatever. But you know,
Right, right.
uh, I don't know. It feels like there's hope. Like the ending leaves hope. Which is a great way to end a Ghibli film. So,
It is. It is.
but
Um, was there anything that we missed that you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. Like I think we did. I had a lot of fun with this one. I think we did the movie justice, especially since it's the second Ghibli film. So,
Yes.
but
Only the castle in the sky is older.
so it was definitely a fun movie. Ghibli is just ahead of their time back then. Honestly, like
Truly.
even though like they don't like um do crazier shit than like some of the anime studios that we see or whatever. They still putting out like super quality work. Um, but I think that any of their movies kind of hold up through the years. So
100%. Definitely timeless.
yeah. But I mean, if that's all we got, we'll get on with the ending.
I'm good to go,
Uh,
brother.
yeah. So that concludes our My Neighbor Totoro review. And just like always, make sure you rate the podcast on all your platforms. Follow us on all of them. Linktree.com/anime Degens. Make sure you tell your friends as well. It really helps us out a lot. And as always, if you have any interesting topics or movies or anything like that you want us to check out and do a review on like this, let us know on Spotify or any of our socials, Discord. We even got like a Google form or whatever in the link tree. Like I said, linktree.com/anime Degens.
Skirt.
And as always, like thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we will see you on Tuesday for the rundown. Later.
Bye.